In 1975, a Kodak engineer invented digital photography. His bosses buried it. Here's why. Picture this. You work for the most dominant company in America. Your invention could revolutionize photography forever, but your own executives tell you to hide it in a drawer and never speak of it again. Welcome back to Arthur Lee's Adventures. I'm Arthur Lee, and today we're conducting a corporate autopsy on one of the most tragic stories in business history, the rise and fall of Eastman Kodak. Over the next 14 minutes, we'll examine 10 critical moments that transformed a $131 billion photography giant into bankruptcy court ruins. After 35 years watching companies rise and fall, this one still keeps me up at night. If you're fascinated by how empires destroy themselves from within, subscribe and join me every week as we uncover the stories behind the headlines. Let's begin our countdown. Fact number 10. By 1976, Kodak controlled 90% of film sales and 85% of camera sales in the United States. Think about that for a second. 90%. The company generated $10 billion in annual revenue and employed 145,000 people worldwide. This wasn't just market dominance. This was a monopoly disguised as innovation. Kodak's yellow boxes were everywhere. Every family vacation, every wedding, every birthday party. The company literally owned the concept of capturing memories. The Kodak moment wasn't just marketing, it was American culture. And the profits? Incredible, right? Kodak made 70 cents profit on every dollar of film sold. 70% margins in manufacturing. That's almost unheard of. Almost. Fact number 9. George Eastman founded the Eastman Dry Plate Company in 1881 with $3,000 borrowed money. 7 years later, he launched Kodak with the revolutionary slogan, "You press the button, we do the rest," and a $25 camera. Here's what made Eastman brilliant. Before Kodak, photography required glass plates, dangerous chemicals, and a professional darkroom. Only experts could take pictures. Eastman transformed photography from a complex laboratory process into something your grandmother could do. His business model was genius. Sell cameras cheap, make massive profits on film and processing services. It's the same strategy we see today with printers and ink cartridges. Eastman created the razor and blade model decades before anyone called it that. Fact number 8. In 1984, Fujifilm became the official film sponsor of the Los Angeles Olympics after Kodak declined. Then Fuji aggressively entered the United States market with film that cost 20% less than Kodak's. Kodak was forced to cut prices for the first time in company history. And who was watching? Apparently nobody at headquarters. This was the first crack in Kodak's armor. For decades, Kodak had enjoyed pricing power that defied economics. Customers paid premium prices because there was no alternative. Fuji proved that wasn't true. Consumers would switch brands for better value. This should have been a massive wake-up call. Instead, Kodak executives dismissed Fuji as a temporary threat from cheap foreign competitors. At this point, Eastman Kodak was worth $31 billion. 124 years of work, 145,000 employees. What happened next would destroy it all in just 3 decades. Fact number 7. In 1981, Sony released the first consumer digital camera called the Mavica. By 1990, industry analysts were predicting that digital would eventually replace film entirely. Yet Kodak CEO Kay Whitmore dismissed digital photography as a niche market that would never threaten traditional film. How does that happen? Simple. When you make 70% profit margins on film, digital cameras look like business suicide. Every digital photo meant one less roll of film sold, one less trip to the photo lab. Whitmore wasn't stupid. He was trapped by his own success. Kodak had spent a century building the most profitable business model in photography. Digital threatened to make it all worthless. Fact number 6. In December 1975, Kodak engineer Steve Sasson invented the world's first digital camera. Picture this device. It was the size of a toaster. It captured 0.01 megapixel black and white images on cassette tapes. Each photo took 23 seconds to capture. Sasson demonstrated his invention to Kodak executives. Their reaction? Complete indifference. According to Sasson himself, the executives saw no market for a camera that produced inferior images and threatened their film business. So they buried it. Let that sink in for a second. Kodak invented digital photography in 1975, then spent the next 30 years pretending it didn't exist. Fact number 5. In 1988, Kodak acquired pharmaceutical company Sterling Drug for $5.1 billion. 6 years later, they sold it for $1.68 billion. That's a $3.4 billion loss on a single acquisition. Here's what makes this truly incredible. This massive loss occurred precisely when Kodak needed every dollar to invest in digital technology. While Canon and Sony were developing digital cameras, Kodak was trying to become a drug company. The failed diversification strategy distracted management from their core business just as the digital revolution accelerated. It's like watching someone sell their house to buy lottery tickets while their neighborhood burns down. We're halfway through this corporate autopsy, and honestly, the patient was already dying. Kodak had invented the cure but refused to take it. But what comes next is where the real tragedy unfolds. Which of these facts has surprised you most so far? I'm genuinely curious. Let me know in the comments. Fact number 4. In 2003, digital camera sales exceeded film camera sales for the first time globally. Digital cameras sold 53 million units versus film cameras at 44 million. This was the moment Kodak's core business model became officially obsolete. And where was Kodak in the digital market they had invented 28 years earlier? Dead last. Despite having a 20-year head start, Kodak held only 20% of the digital camera market. Canon dominated with 35%. Sony held 25%. Companies that had never made film were crushing the company that invented digital photography. You cannot make this stuff up. Fact number 3. Between 2003 and 2007, CEO Antonio Perez laid off 47,000 employees. That reduced Kodak's workforce from 145,000 to 26,000 people. He closed 13 manufacturing plants and spent $3.4 billion on restructuring. Meanwhile, digital camera prices plummeted 40% annually. Perez was essentially dismantling Kodak while trying to reinvent it. But here's the fundamental problem he couldn't solve. Digital photography eliminated the need for film processing entirely. That was Kodak's most profitable business. The company was performing surgery on itself while bleeding to death. Fact number 2. In 2010, Kodak's digital camera division lost $111 million. The culprit? Smartphone cameras. The iPhone 4's 5-megapixel camera began replacing standalone digital cameras entirely. Just as Kodak was finally embracing digital photography, smartphones eliminated the need for separate cameras. Think about the cruel irony here. Kodak created the concept of capturing moments with their slogan, Kodak Moment. Now, devices that made photography instantaneous and shareable were making Kodak obsolete. The company that democratized photography was being destroyed by technology that democratized it even further. But here's what makes this story truly extraordinary. The most shocking revelation is still to come, and that, right there, is the moment everything changed. Fact number 1. Despite inventing digital photography in 1975, Kodak executives deliberately suppressed the technology for decades. They feared it would cannibalize their film business that generated $10 billion annually with 70% profit margins. Stay with me here, because this is important. Internal documents revealed that Kodak continued investing billions in film technology even as digital photography advanced rapidly in the 1990s. They knew digital would win. They had the patents. They had the engineering talent. They had a 20-year head start. But they chose to protect existing profits rather than embrace the future. This wasn't corporate blindness. This was corporate suicide by committee. On January 19, 2012, Eastman Kodak filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. 131 years of innovation. Destroyed by the fear of cannibalizing their own success. So what happened to the key players? Steve Sasson, the engineer who invented digital photography, retired from Kodak and became a consultant. He watched his invention destroy the company that refused to embrace it. Antonio Perez received a severance package worth over $7 million after laying off 47,000 workers. He later became CEO of another technology company. The 47,000 laid-off employees? Most never found jobs with comparable pay or benefits. Many lost their pensions when Kodak's stock became worthless. Here's what we can learn from Kodak's corporate autopsy. First, market dominance is temporary. Even 90% market share can disappear in a decade. Second, internal innovation means nothing if you don't act on it. Kodak invented digital photography but let competitors commercialize it. Third, protecting existing profits can cost you the entire business. Sometimes you have to cannibalize yourself before someone else does it for you. Growing up on a farm, we had a saying, "You can paint a barn, but you cannot hide the rot." Kodak painted over their digital fears for 30 years while the foundation crumbled underneath. Remember, this video is for educational purposes only. It's not financial advice. Always do your own research and consult professionals before making any investment decisions. Which moment in Kodak's story shocked you the most? Was it the buried digital camera? The $3.4 billion pharmaceutical disaster? Or the fact that they invented the technology that killed them? Drop your thoughts in the comments. If you want to see more corporate autopsies like this, subscribe and hit the bell. Next time, we're examining another iconic American company that fell even faster than Kodak. That's another chapter of business history uncovered. The patterns are clear for those who look. Until next time, keep exploring.